Come with us now, if you dare, down a rickety staircase into a dank, dark basement. What awaits? The Saturday Night Freak Show.
We hear you looking for Candyman, bitch. This is the Saturday Night Freak Show.
That was threatening.
And these are the Saturday Night Freak Show podcast regulars.
That was a short startup. Travis.
Sean.
And I'm Colin.
Caught us off guard. Holy shit.
Every Saturday night, the Freak Show happens right
waiting for that
here.
spiel.
On an actual Saturday night. Holy shit.
That's
Wait,
right. Hey, don't ruin the myth.
Put the curtain back.
And as always, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, and more. Please give us a like or a star rating if you like what you hear here, or drop us a comment if you mention anything on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Saturday Night Freak Show, or on Twitter @SatFreakShow. We'll read your comments on the air later on when we summon Igor to bring us the mailbag. So tonight, Sean brought us the movie. What did we watch tonight, Sean?
Excuse me. We watched Candyman.
From
1992.
the year.
1992.
Directed by.
I keep wanting to say Barbara Rose. It's Bernard Rose.
Or it could be Bernard.
Bernard. It could be Bernard. Based on a short story by Clive Barker.
Yes.
Or at least a story by Clive Barker called The Forbidden.
It was in one of the books of blood, which were published here in America under the titles. I can't remember.
In the Flesh.
Yep.
No.
In the Flesh.
Yeah, In the Flesh. The first one was just called Books of Blood, right? Or a Book of Blood? Oh.
There was Cabal.
Cabal was a Book of Blood?
I think so, because there was like 4 short stories and then the longer one, Cabal, which was
Isn't there a movie,
Nightbreed.
Cabal?
Nightbreed.
Oh, that's what it was.
Nightbreed.
That's where, yeah.
God, I can't remember the Inhuman Condition.
The Inhuman Condition, In the Flesh.
I don't
Can't
remember
recall
which one the Forbidden
whatever.
is in, but I've read it.
Yeah? I couldn't find it.
The Forbidden takes place in an English ghetto where there is a university student who's doing a research on urban myth about the Candyman. And the Candyman in the story, if I remember correctly, the image that I had in my head was that he had patchwork, bright-colored pajama pants. He wore a top hat, maybe, had long blonde hair, and was really pale. And he had a hook for a hand.
Mm.
So
Quite a difference from Tony Todd.
yes. So that's, I guess, brings us to the movie.
The
version.
movie. Which
Oh,
I call the Dangerous Minds of horror. It's the white lady goes to the ghetto and apologizes for like how white people are.
For racism.
We don't hate you all. Like she's just so apologetic to it. It's like, I mean, it's not so like the movie doesn't like shove it down your throat,
Right,
but
it's
it's
not
definitely
laid on
there.
there.
It's fucking totally there.
There are some, they do go over a few racial issues. But,
Well, yeah,
but
because
Again,
they
not sure
relocated the story to Chicago, Illinois.
Cabrini Green.
One of the worst housing projects in human history. I think most dangerous.
I would
Worst,
say so,
Most
yeah.
dangerous were
Most
both of those.
dangerous.
Yeah.
One of them.
It developed a reputation, to say the least. Since torn down throughout the aughts, I believe they tore all
it's
that
not
down.
there
They're
anymore.
gone.
It was that bad. Gang control.
And then they sent everybody here.
Yeah. So the question is, Sir Bernard Rose, we know
Yes.
him from movies such as,
You tell me.
well, anybody see a movie called Paper House?
Nope.
Okay, he did that before this. Anybody see Chicago Joe and the Showgirl?
No.
Immortal Beloved.
I don't
Gary
know
Oldman?
Bernard Rose.
No, you do. I'm getting there.
He
He also
starts
did-
obscure. He'll get to something we know.
Yeah, he also did.
But-
He didn't do. He did
No.
He did a version of Frankenstein that's out in theaters and recently, or direct to video. He did something called
Really?
SX Tape. As
No,
a found
dude.
footage horror.
I don't know Bernard Rose.
All right, then.
I'm just going to tell you.
He's just kind of gone and
No one
waddled off
does.
into obscurity then.
Apparently.
From Immortal Beloved. and,
The
you know,
Devil's Violinist.
No.
Well, I can kind of see why. I
Yeah,
think- I
but
think
this
it
guy,
makes a
so
bland movie.
he wrote and directed Candyman, so he's responsible for the inspiration, I think, to relocate it to a Chicago ghetto,
Yes.
which is interesting because he uses a lot of real life Cabrini Green mythology and incorporated it into the story. This is like the
Yeah,
thing that
which
like
works.
it makes
Very much.
the story of the Forbidden take on like this, cinematic life. I mean, it gives the story like an extra layer of interest.
Especially considering they shot in Cabrini Green and used a bunch of gang members. Like they had to negotiate with the gang members to shoot in Cabrini Green for like to guarantee their safety on set. Like you got to put us in the movie too.
Do I hear when paramedics go to Cabrini or used to go to Cabrini Green, the gang members would always have to bring down the victims. The paramedics were never allowed in Cabrini Green. Like they could park there, and then they would get victims brought to. I mean, it's that kind of fucking place that crime rules supreme. Governments can't fucking even do anything about it except for tear it down and send them disperse the people. That's all they can do.
It has to be like a military operation to actually go in there and do a sweep. You got to go in force, which that a scene like that is alluded to in the movie, but we don't actually get to see it.
They swept from top to bottom.
So this is about a white, she's a university student, right?
She's University of Illinois.
Graduate student, they said.
Yeah, working on her thesis. She's definitely older.
Working on her thesis.
Jesus, don't have a job.
Helen Lyle.
Helen and her
played
friend.
by Virginia Madsen, who we know from...
A good-looking Virginia Madsen.
I don't know Virginia Madsen.
Highlander 2, The Quickening.
No one saw that.
What are you talking about? I was there opening fucking night. I loved Highlander.
I bet you were.
You do. You have a thing for Highlander.
I hated The Quickening. It was one of the worst pieces of shit.
Man.
She's also been in Sideways, a movie that was nominated for an Academy Award. She was in A Haunting in Connecticut.
The number 23.
The number 23. Yeah, she's been in The Prophecy. Remember with Christopher Walken? Yeah, she's
Wasn't she in TV show?
Lots of them.
Lots of TV shows. She's in a bunch of stuff.
So she's a graduate student working on her thesis. Her thesis is about modern
mythology,
like urban legends.
Yeah, which is an interesting take, I guess. Subject for a horror movie,
right?
The idea that like you have these kind of, because they use the example of the alligator in the sewers. Her husband teaches a class on this also, but the idea that you have like these kind of folklore. I mean, it's kind of like we did this later with The Ring, right? The idea of the story that would it's like a viral.
Yeah. Kind of goes from person to person.
It takes on a life.
Yeah, my brother's roommate, he knows her and everything.
Yeah.
Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows the person it actually happened to.
Right.
Urban legends.
Yeah. Which none of them turn out to be
not really
necessarily.
There may be like a seed of something that like blossomed into this complete myth that has grown over time. But Candyman, well, according to I forgot the actor who plays him, the very British,
the
professor, the long-haired professor.
Yeah.
Later in the movie, kind of gives the whole history of Candyman.
And that history is unique to the movie. Also, that's not in the short story.
Right.
It was good.
Yeah.
Clive Barker is the executive producer on this, so
yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if he had a hand in some of the,
especially stuff like that
story,
like
just kind of story elements. I'm sure he would have talked to Bernard.
We're saying Bernard is British,
yes,
right?
Bernard.
I don't know. Is he British? If he's British,
Paper House
it's definitely
British.
Bernard.
Yeah.
Like I won't even guess.
Bernard Herman. Rose.
Bernard Rose.
Bernard.
Yeah.
Oh yes, Bernard. I have an idea. Come here.
Well, Clive Barker.
Is it good? By Jove.
He had a couple of his stories adapted prior to this that I think like he disowned them. They were so bad. Transmutations. Anyone?
This is Clive or Bernard?
Clive Barker and Rawhead Rex. He was extremely disappointed with both of those.
I used to love
show?
Rawhead Rex though. Like growing up, like Rawhead Rex always captured my imagination.
Have you read the story?
I have read the story. I love the story.
Showed me. They look horrifying.
I was just telling. I was actually just mentioning to Colin a few minutes ago that I recently just bought Hellboy meets Rawhead Rex.
Really?
Yeah, dude. I haven't read it yet. But
so they're bringing him back.
Yeah.
Well, the design of the creature in the movie is kind of cool. I mean, stiffly animatronic.
Right.
I think Clive Barker just comes up with good monsters. The guy knows a good monster. He knows how to write these like weird demon. Well, especially because I think he is kind of a how do I say it? A sexual like miscreant. Like, I think I like Clive Barker's storytelling, but man, I think that fucking guy is revealing shit about himself when he writes about Pinhead and Rawhead Rex, and it's always going to be extremely sexual and very anti-religious. And by God, if he doesn't mix the two at some point, it's just very like, Jesus Christ, man.
The way we're afraid to use the word deviant anymore.
Right.
But
it
that
just means
means
a deviation from like what.
Well, but he's a
technically
deviant. Wasn't he
norm.
charged with giving his boyfriend HIV, like, knowingly? I mean, didn't this just happen a few months ago? Yeah.
I remember
I've never seen an interview with Clive Barker
him.
where it doesn't have a fucking statue of a dick around him.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you got to be? I get it if you like. I don't
like
care.
my dicks.
I don't care if
like
you.
the dicks. I like the dicks.
I don't care who you fuck. I'm just saying, at some point, if you have to be surrounded by dicks, it's like you might be a pervert. You just might be a little like, I'm an artist. I need to surround myself with beautiful things. What, like dicks? Yes, exactly. But that's beside the point. I think that's what helps us writing, right? I want my demons and shit to be like,
Sure.
Oh, I want demons to break the boundaries. I want them to be like, Jesus Christ, this turns my stomach reading. Like, I feel like I should put it down. Like,
Yeah, I just remember a scene from Rawhead Rex where like the thing has to pee on this priest that's been converted, and that was like
he baptizes him in
yeah,
piss.
baptized
Baptized in piss.
Only
dude.
Clive Barker would think that.
in
We've
the-
been
in
doing
the-
this
in-
for 3 years.
dude, in the
this
short-
movie's not made it.
In the short story, after he kills the other priest, we're gonna stop talking about Rawhead Rex in a second. But he goes to kill the main priest in the church, and then after he kills the priest, he looks at a image of a crucified Jesus and masturbates. It's just like, oh my God, Clive Barker, like, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
like this fucking guy. So
I hope it's like 5 minutes long, and it's just like,
well, that's why it's like his characters are always so like, ugh. Even this movie, there's like a sexual tone to Candyman, right?
be
Yeah.
my victim.
Yeah, there's a very like, oh man, if you succumb to me, like it's always about giving into power or something.
Yeah.
Well, he's tempting her, right? Or seducing her, I suppose.
Trying
in
to,
some
yes.
way. He's trying to seduce this woman to be his victim, which is like
Weird, right?
Yeah.
It was always you, Helen.
Yeah. You have to want to die with
Yes.
Candyman.
And he's going to do everything in his power to make you want to die.
Because she doesn't believe in Candyman. That's her
Yeah.
whole point, right? Is we have these urban legends.
She wants to break it down.
Cabrini Green has a famous story about some woman that just died through Candyman coming through her mirror.
Ruthie Jean, yeah.
And she figures out that, and this is actually kind of based on a true crime incident of Cabrini Green, about how the apartments are connected through the medicine cabinet. If you knock one out, you can get into the other apartments. So
Yeah.
people were breaking into
Right.
people's apartments.
That
So
was the
I thought
thing.
that was really cool. They used that for this.
Girl X.
Well, because we didn't mention that Candyman's kind of a Bloody Mary. It's a
Basically,
you
yeah.
say Candyman 5 times, and then he appears before you,
If you're
breathing
looking
down
in the
your
mirror.
neck or whatever. Which was a really weird backflash scene, like when we go into the girl's story at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And
Ted
kinda playing it
Raimi's
out.
there.
Ted Raimi's there.
Yeah.
He looks like a greaser, like
Right.
bad boy, but
Leather
it's like
jacket.
clearly still the 90s or something like that. Like, it's a very weird tone.
Well, we know he's a bad boy because he wears a leather jacket
Maybe
and
those
drinks
are
some beer.
But that's where the time when they were like wore leather jackets as like suit coats and shit.
Actually, you
It
know
was that
what?
time.
You know
That's
what?
the best
you wear
time.
like a tie underneath.
Right, yeah,
that
tie,
with
a shirt,
your-
but
yeah,
a
yeah.
leather fucking dress coat.
I actually just figured this out, and this is why this director's like kind of good, but like, oh, dude, you miss people on this. He's trying to give people the version they're seeing, like this character Helen, right? She's hearing this story, so she's imagining this 50s greaser boy coming over to the babysitter, because then later when she goes to Cabrini Green, there's a boy telling her about a handicapped kid that goes, and she's imagining the 70s, and we learn later in the movie that is something that happened recently.
The murder, yeah.
The
kid
murder,
in the bathroom.
because she actually finds, like, once she finds that, oh yeah, people come through come through the medicine cabinet, and they blame it on Candyman. They find that, oh, there is actually some dude on the block posing as Candyman.
Yeah.
Which that's where that whole I like that line. You looking for Candyman, bitch?
I hear you looking for
And the
Candyman.
lineup.
The lineup where they all say, "I hear you looking for Candyman, bitch."
Yeah.
I hear you looking for Candyman, bitch.
So this is like
Yeah.
the moment this time around watching the movie I became more aware of it. It's like she doesn't believe in the Candyman. She says Candyman 5 times in a mirror, like fairly early on in the movie.
Yes.
And then I think they go to Cabrini Green after that. No, that's when they get back, right? No, yeah, they go after that. And she's like,
Yeah.
look, this is the cabinet,
Yeah,
that
because she
falls
does her
on the wall.
research on
That-
her building.
That's when
which
she's
was-
showing her friend.
Right. She's done the
Bernadette.
research. The building was actually built as a project. So she's showing her like the cinder blocks all covered in plaster and like there's only the medicine cabinets between the 2 apartments and everything.
But then they go to Cabrini Green to actually check out the
Right.
real.
Because
Yeah,
the layouts
the
were
real
the
So
same.
deal.
and at no point in this does Candyman actually show up.
No.
Maybe we're waiting for him to show up, so that misdirection of like when the guy in the black coat steps into the frame and the little kid turns around like Candyman.
Candyman.
You know, we're supposed to
That's a
think
cool
that
scene, though.
is
I like
him.
that.
Right,
Finally,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah, it's setting it
That
up
is
to like
scary.
give us that, and then after that whole event is over. That's like the first like.
And it
half
gives you
hour
that
of the
scary,
movie.
like they go to the bathroom and like Candyman's in there. Like it's like, ugh.
Yeah, in the world's worst fucking
It's-
toilet. It
this
may
whole
be next
thing-
to the toilet in Train Spotting, like the grimiest fucking public toilet.
Grimy is a great word to describe. Like I can
Grimy,
almost
covered in shit is a
I can
great way to
almost
describe-
smell this movie.
Yeah,
Just-
dude, that scene's always made me sick.
That that scene or when they first enter Cabrini Green and they're just walking up the stairs.
Yeah, you
and
smell
they get-
that?
I can almost because
What
I've
does it
seen
smell like? Urine,
it
crack?
does. It's got that
It smells like
because
urine
that's
and crack.
like that's the shit that like scares me. Like being in areas like
Urban
that.
area.
Urban development scares
What are you
the
doing
shit
here?
out of me.
Nothing. We're just leaving.
Oh God, it does. But
That's
no.
why.
Just because of the dinginess? It's
Just
like,
yeah, because
It's not
like,
our
I
place.
don't- No,
We're of a pale persuasion. I
we
guess.
don't belong there.
We're not.
No, but yeah, the
I think
like
we
I
have
said,
privilege,
grimy,
they say.
dingy. Like when she goes, the toilets especially bother me because like that whole thing. Oh no,
Dude, written
no.
in shit. I like sweets to the
Ugh.
sweet to the
Written
sweets.
shit on the wall. No. Oh,
yeah.
I'll keep you out of there though. If that's your headquarters, like I know how to keep them out. That's like a
Yeah.
that's better than a fucking bat hound or like a force field. Be like right with shit on the wall. People stay out. Good idea.
Well,
Oh,
she gets
no.
assaulted in this bathroom by this guy who's been calling himself the Candyman, but he ends up being like he was running
He's a
or
thug.
yeah, but he was the leader of the Overlords
Yeah,
gang
yeah,
or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. And so it's somewhere around here at this point in the movie where, she's talking to she's been assaulted. She goes to the police station. She has this guy arrested
Mhm.
and she's talking to this little kid. And the little kid believes in Candyman because Candyman's just this, legend that they've been telling around Cabrini Green and all
Mhm.
over the place to keep people in line, basically.
Yep.
But she's telling the kid like Candyman isn't real. This bad guy took his name and
Kind of
was doing-
reproduce the murders. or
Yeah.
And to
something.
me, that was the moment that actually that's
That
what
changes
sealed her. Her. And then after that, you're going to meet the
Yeah,
Candyman.
because the kid's like, Candyman isn't real.
because she's
Huh.
like. This is probably like the most she's ever investigated at actual folklore or something. Because I mean, she don't
Right.
even know the legend really.
No.
That's she
But
has that
she's-
professor guy
but
who
she's-
basically fills
yeah.
her in.
Right, but she's breaking it down. Like the mystique around it is going away. Like
Right.
her telling the kid and the kid
Well,
believing it
Because
that he's
it
not there.
only does exist in Cabrini Green. Like in the story, he dies on Cabrini on
Right,
the
in his
land.
the
ashes.
legend,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be some worldwide
No.
folklore
In
or
the
something. It just is a
sequel- and okay, maybe it's
Ah,
inappropriate.
Farewell
bringing
to
this
the
up.
Flesh,
But doesn't-
or Day of the Dead. Which one are you
It's
speaking of?
the Farewell to the Flesh.
Okay.
Don't they end up like tracking this back to like I remember before watching this again tonight, 'cause it's been
Louisiana
a
or something
while.
like
Yeah,
that?
it's like New Orleans or something.
It's
they
New
got to.
Orleans, I believe.
And it's like
Nolans?
that's where it actually
Nolans.
happened. And I'm like, I thought the legend in the first movie, when we were watching, it, I'm like, oh, this
he
is.
dies on Cabrini Green.
And they scatter his ashes over
On
the
Cabrini Green.
Oh no, yeah,
Cabrini
they
Green.
change it to the sequels because they
were going to film in New Orleans, so
Well, yeah,
They're
right.
like,
It's like what's cheaper? New Orleans? Let's change it a little.
we're
bit.
not
But
going
no,
to Chicago.
But they end up like going like flashbacks in history. Like I think they
I
still
remember
go
they do-
back
They
to
do
the,
that
like
in part
slave
two.
era, and they show him getting his hand sawed off
in
and
New
the honey
Orleans,
and
in New
everything.
Orleans, or like
I
on a
think probably,
plantation, or
like, yeah,
something.
Which
like
is
that,
weird
yeah.
because in this it says it's 1890. He was the son of a inventor who made like
Yeah.
mass producing shoe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so he was a painter, and he was hired to paint the virgin, like
The virginal beauty
Yeah.
of some guy's daughter. Yeah. They
And
fell in love, and that. Of
she
course,
got pregnant, and they cut off his hand and spread him with honey, so the bees would sting him to death, which is cool. That's cool.
Huh.
That's a good reason why his name was Candyman. Why was his name Candyman in the story of The Forbidden?
I think he actually had. I mean, like I think she at one point she says he smelled like candy or something like that. She gets an odor of like
Weird.
cotton candy or something off of the guy. But I think the sweets to the sweet and the fact that there were razor blade chocolates, I think, is also in the story. But I could be mixing those two things up. I'm not sure. Yeah, because you're like, well, he should have candy, bags of candy, but the guy doesn't. It's like, what? So he's a slave who's got his hand cut off and has a hook.
The honey, man.
Just covered in honey.
So
That's it. Just honey.
this movie, at this point, suddenly takes a turn. Like when the Candyman actually appears, which is a kind of a cool scene because of what they do with his
Very
voice.
cool scene. Oh yeah.
He's got a voice that's like omnipresent or something. Yeah.
I think every bad guy should sound like that in every movie. Every movie. It's just that, yeah. What was like
It's
the
like coming
first
out of
thing
all
he
the
said?
speakers.
Yeah.
They tell me blah 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 blah.
Oh, at the beginning?
Oh yeah, he does
Yeah.
a narration at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. I don't know what he
Remember
says.
what it was, I just remember it ended with "I'll split you from your groin to your gullet." That's,
Yeah.
Clive Barker's flowery prose of how to
Oh,
murder
just
people.
like be my victim. You know, it's just like Jesus.
My victim.
Yeah, but she sees the Candyman in a parking garage, and then it
Starts
like,
like getting woozy.
All of a
Yeah.
sudden gets a barn door
She does.
light
She gets,
situation
like,
on
the
her eyes.
Film noir, like
yeah.
lighting.
I was telling
Femme
Travis
fatale
when we
lighting
were
in this.
watching it. I had an anecdote from Bernard Rose.
Bernard.
Apparently used or had like a hypnotist come in and they
Yeah,
hypnotized
that's what she said. That's what
Virginia
Madsen
Madsen
says.
for
She
those
was
scenes.
hypnotized for some of those
So
scenes.
weird.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Just to give the
Just
effect.
to get that.
But then they'll like say these lines.
She's got the
I
long,
don't know.
500-yard
I
stare.
have to go.
She does. She's very out of it in those scenes.
She's
Right?
very
It's kinda
good
cool.
in this movie. You
She's
know,
very
like,
good in this movie.
Yeah.
I'm like she's.
I don't like her hair, but
she
that's
seems-
not, here or there.
Let's hear that.
She seems like an actress who is like better than this material or this type of movie usually. So like to have her in it, it's almost the Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs kind of thing, where you're like, wow, they got Virginia Madsen for this. I mean, I know I previously.
Well, and I'm
There's a
thinking,
connection between the two as well.
well, I'm thinking the reason she did this is because, well, like after they caught the Candyman, that's where like the main line to me where it's like, oh, here we go, where she says, man, imagine how like cops never go there. Then when a white woman was attacked, they come, oh, feel so bad. I'm like, oh, Jesus, I guess we should all just feel so bad. Us horrible white people that,
I mean, well, yeah.
But it's just one of those like this is why I'm like this is the dangerous minds of horror movie the 90s. It's the white person goes into the urban environment to like see I'm one of you too or whatever. You
You
know
know what else makes this a '90s movie? The smoking.
Ooh,
Smoking
like,
everywhere.
Oh,
It's a
dude,
smoking 90s movie.
every second they're putting a cigarette.
They're smoking.
In their mouth.
Are you disturbed that your wife just murdered her best friend in your living room? Sit on the couch and smoke.
Oh, that's how you show it. Well, he was
That's-
very teary.
Yeah, it's
Well, I mean, but that goes to what happens in this. It's like reality seems to shift, and
Yeah.
we
Huh?
become aware that this movie is a subjective viewing experience. We're seeing everything from the mind of Helen Lyle.
right.
Is
get a
this
few
how
glimpses.
you took this?
Well, yeah,
No.
you get a few glimpses like from like the outside perspective of it to like show that like you look fucking crazy.
It's I would say it's the outside perspective. She just looks crazy to us because, well, Candyman tells her that like,
Well, I mean, the
oh, people
movie
don't
shows
believe in
us
me.
all from her point of view. You know what I
I
mean?
think
we
so.
never
Yeah.
see what actually happens in some of these
Yeah,
scenes.
Well,
because
that's what I'm saying. We get that,
but we
it's-
don't
but
have
we
her
get
lost
every,
time.
every now and again.
We don't ever have her lost time. Or
That's what
any
I'm
of that.
saying. Yeah, so it's subjective
We
to
just-
her point of view, not objective like the,
Right.
this
We don't
is what
see that
actually
month
happened.
passing.
Like say in the scene in the the one that
Yeah,
that really
okay, I guess,
tweaks
yeah.
with my head is the scene where she's seeing the doctor and she
that's what I'm
summons
saying.
Candyman. Candyman shows up, cuts the guy up the back, then frees her from her restraints because she's tied down she's in an institution at that point.
Well,
and then goes out the window, and it's like, well, what is the objective version of what happened there in reality?
Right. Does the window just break?
How did she get out of the restraints?
How did she get out of the restraints?
she does crawl out the window. That's why,
But she has to get out of the restraints to kill the guy to go out the window. If this is all in her head, she's possessed by or she sees a Candyman that doesn't exist. Because I guess that's what I'm saying with the movie. At this point, it becomes a psychological.
Is she doing it?
Thriller, yeah.
Like we're never looked, because the only time we get to see the other perspective of it is when Candyman is not doing anything. Like it's the scene where he's floating over her in the bed and then goes under the.
Well, I want to talk about
the bed. We're just there's nothing like he's not doing anything in that scene where we can be like somebody else is doing this.
Right.
Like they can all still be looked at as in her head.
I think it's important to talk about Candyman's motive before we talk about any of this. Candyman in that parking garage scene where he first shows up tells her, like, you don't believe in me. You've shaken the foundation that all these people,
my followers,
so we need to like start building the story again. I need to like, innocents are going to die. But then he starts for some reason wants her to be part of it. Like, that's where we'd find this out later, I guess. But yeah, it's like, why does Candyman give a fuck if she joins with him to be part of the urban legend and all this shit? So basically, then she like pops up in this. She first wakes up in that apartment that was with some woman that lived next door to the woman that was supposedly killed by
the single mother.
The single mother.
There's a single mother and her baby's dead. Her dog's head is cut off, and the woman just wakes up in the bathroom with the door shut. That's what I'm like. What the? So she had to have done it. Candyman had to have possessed her or something, or.
That's I mean, I don't think you're ever going to be like, could she have done it? Like, could he have placed her there? Like, is she being possessed? Is she actually doing this stuff? Like,
yeah.
I don't think there's a definitive answer. I think you can go either way on it.
I mean, the other option is what? Candyman lays her out, brings her over there, kills the dog.
Well, he
steals the baby, which is what I think.
Puts her in the bathroom,
and
covers her with a bunch of blood,
blood.
or she doesn't have the knife in her hand in that.
Yeah, she sees the. Which is where did all that blood come from in the butt? Anyway,
yeah, I mean, I took it as like she actually did it under the guidance of Candyman, and whether he's real or not.
Because she was hypnotized or whatever. Or you could take it as she's been so affected by researching Candyman
that she lost her mind.
Went
crazy. Or there was some mental illness there that we just were unaware of prior to this. I don't know.
Something. That's why, that's where this movie does lose me, too. I just like, what the fuck?
She does have some stressors in her marriage.
She does.
Oh, that's right.
Candyman, because of the ending.
Well, it's definitely Candyman, that's for sure. A fucking dude.
That scene in the apartment where she just, like, wakes up, like, covered in the blanket and pulls it off and there's the blood, and, like, the dog's head sitting in the kitchen. Like, I saw this movie when I was young. Like, that... I think that scene fucked me up because I'm like, oh, Jesus, just waking up in the blood and the dog's head and then the baby's like all the blood in there. I'm just like, oh.
You know what fucked me up is when she's in the cop station and you can see her nipples through the bra and it's all bloody. I'm like, this is fucking wrong, dude. And then they're like, lift up the left breast. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. This is a confusing scene for me as a young child.
As I was
like
confused.
13, 14 when this came out. I'm like, holy shit. It's so rare I see boobs and...
It's so rare that the main character in a horror movie, a female main character in a horror movie, actually is naked or topless or exposed as much as Virginia Madsen is in this movie. And granted, it's only like 2 scenes. She's in a bathtub.
Yep,
she's in a bath.
And then the
but it's like
scene.
Usually you just don't see like your like the lead actress, like.
And usually, they go about.
I would say
it's like not going to show
non-sexualized like nudity.
I mean, I would say
it's like slice of life kind of stuff.
I say unknown actors, we would definitely see more boobs in a main actor in a horror movie. It's just so rare that somebody that's kind of, what you call her well known. I don't
Well,
know. Where
maybe
she's
not
at
at
this
this
that may have
time.
been after Candyman.
But
too.
yeah, I don't know.
she-
I mean, I think boobs are all over horror movies.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but usually it's like this the friend or something like that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
because even
Really?
like I don't know
Usually,
why I
like your
thought of
main
this.
character gets home from a day after school. She changes her shirt for some reason because you got to get out of your school clothes and get into your play clothes, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you continue the adventure. You just got to get home first, show your boobs to the closet.
Yeah.
See, that's was like I always for some reason popped in my head like Dario Dawson. What's her
Rosario?
name? No, it's
In this
something-
movie?
No, in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the most recent one.
Daddario.
Daddario.
Something.
What's her name?
Daddario.
Her last name's
whatever.
Daddario. Yeah, but she's like the main character,
Somebody
and there was like
Daddario.
no boob in that. Like, I don't know where I was going with that, but
'Cause
like,
we're-
there's just
'cause
like,
we're soft
you get that little bit-
nowadays.
I mean, maybe, but you get a little bit like
Yeah.
but no boob in that one.
Yeah.
Like, it's not always a thing. But
We make
like,
soft horror movies.
it's surprising that it happened in this movie like
Right,
that.
yeah,
like that's
yeah,
what I'm going
yeah.
for.
And an older actor, well, I mean, she's still probably in her 20s.
Probably.
30s, maybe 30.
This?
Alexandra
Yeah,
Daddario.
it's definitely
Thank you.
30s.
There it is. Jesus.
But going to Candyman's motive, I guess, like the myth of Candyman, like the character, he's this guy who exists without a physical corporeal body or
Yeah.
something. He exists as myth, as writing on the wall,
Right.
as the whisper in the classroom, all this stuff, which sounds really cool. But he was like, I was
Does he
obliged
say-
to come because you made people doubt me.
Right.
And the first scene, I was telling Travis to get like the scene where he shows up in the parking garage. I think the first thing he does is like inhale. He walks up and he's like, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like the first
Like
time
he
this
came
guy
to life.
has been alive
Right.
and God knows how long. He just made himself somehow a physical being.
Yeah.
And his whole trajectory is to claim a victim and then be burned in the fire and go back to
Yes.
living in the shade, in
Right.
in the whispers, I guess.
Right.
So,
Yes.
not
Well, no, he wanted
existing
her
in
with
myth.
him because this kind of has that pseudo Dracula like. Dun dun dun!
Yeah,
You're
come
a
with me and we'll
descendant
be
of the
forever.
white woman
Right.
that I like. So that would like make him like his like great grandniece. Which whatever, 1890. You
It's
know,
been a long time.
yeah.
That theme continues in the later movies. It's like, you're from the woman that I loved way back when. It's like, oh, all right.
Weird.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not weird.
Yeah, those scenes. See, that's the thing. Like now that I'm thinking about it on this watch, I'm like, I blanked those out because I think they
Don't
didn't
do
conform to
that.
my world.
Now I know why you like The
movie.
Force
Yes,
Awakens.
You know, the idea that he distracted me because Travis is crazy. He doesn't like the Force. So everybody has their own.
Well, because I don't get to
They're all
blank out
valid.
parts of movies.
Yeah, but
I had to watch that whole
The
movie.
Helen, it was always
It was
you,
always you,
Helen,
Helen,
graffiti. I mean, I guess you can take it as
Well, because why else?
if it is her psychology
Right.
writing this, she somehow knows that she's the killer.
Right.
It's always been you.
Which
Helen
is a cool way to take it.
is her saying you've always been the killer.
Yeah, you've
Yeah,
been the
I'm
killer.
gonna say this guy's a bad director.
But the
like
flip
I can
side-
see like where that's coming from, but like I don't know. This movie just gives you too much to be like.
Well, the flip
Candyman's
side
real.
is what that Candyman is real, and she is somehow the reincarnation or something of the girl that he was in love with.
Well,
that he
she would be.
painted.
Or,
She
like,
was
she
the
was
white
supposed to
girl
take
was
up the
pregnant.
mantle.
The white girl was pregnant when Candyman was originally killed, so you would assume that that's the descendant, right? No,
I don't think it's the descendant. I don't know. I take it as like somebody he's finally found to take the place.
but why? But see,
I don't
that's
know.
why.
I don't know.
It's because that's his descendant. It's because that's why.
But that's why you
right
get the
when he
old
meets
picture.
her. That's right when he meets her. I mean, that's the whole point of when she looks at the
Right.
white girl in the urban graffiti montage of his origin.
Yeah.
That's her realizing, well, I'm the descendant of his whatever, his
woman from way back, in the
virgin
day. Which is
model, whatever. And that's why he wants her to merge with him. He wants her to merge. He wants her to merge with his story. That's
Yeah.
why he's like, I'm gonna make you the killer of all these things. That way, people are gonna start talking about Helen. This is what she did. This is gonna get her story going. That way, she could join him in this immortal being or whatever. What did he say? Living without being or something like that. Like when you because that's why he's convincing her. You need to know what it's like. wait till you feel what it's like to exist without existing on the lips of everybody, and It's because he wants his old flame to join him in death. That way, it completes something. The ghost story, right?
No,
it completes the ghost story.
It makes me wonder too, like how many times Candyman has actually appeared as a flesh and blood.
I think that's 4 times, guys. I think that's.
Yeah. Because I was like, maybe.
No, I was talking about Candyman. How many times he said Candyman?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But I mean, how many times he's actually appeared? It's like maybe he never has. Maybe this is the first and only time that he has, and so his first time back is like, I've existed since my death.
Legend has been good up until this point,
and you fucked it up, and so now I'm going to come back, and so now we have to do something to keep the fires burning since you went and ruined it. Yeah. So I'm going to bring you. So you're going to be my victim.
Be part of this,
and this is going to add to the legend because of all these Candyman-inspired murders. Because she's probably saying to the press or whoever she's told her doctors, it was a Candyman, not me. So that grows the legend, and so that gets out into the public that this woman was asking about Candyman, then started killing people like Candyman. And then she
took
died.
someone's baby. Yeah. Like
Candyman. And then, but then saved the baby. So then she's like the saint kind of to his sinner.
Yeah.
The duo, right?
But like she like grows her own separate legend.
But that doesn't make sense. We were talking about this earlier. It's like that doesn't make sense because that legend should only based on the negativity of, Helen kill, like she's the bride of Candyman, she's that's what I think of as Helen, the bride of Candyman. But but once she crawls out of the fire with the baby, she should be like a saint. Like the entire population of Cabrini Green shows up at her funeral. Right. So where's the negative story that's fueling her coming back at the end to kill her husband? That's fucking stupid. Yeah. It is a tacked on ending. It's gotta be like, we need a zinger.
Right. Yeah. What is her crawling out of the fire like that? Like you said, it contributes to. It's a positive.
It's a positive. Why would that be anywhere associated to being able to so is she say your name in a fucking mirror?
Now it kind of doesn't make sense because she comes back and kills Trevor, but he's a piece.
Well, he's the only one person in the world that would look at a mirror and go, "Oh, Helen, Helen." He's very perturbed. Helen. Ah!
Yeah, I've never liked that. Like, I guess 2 things. Like, I forgot that Candyman dies separate from Helen in the bonfire at the end. And I'm sitting there going, like, why did they do that? Why? I mean, like, because you're like, either
they know she killed Candyman.
It's like they separate her, but they just bring her back as part of like a Candyman-esque legend. It's just like, well, why does he die separate?
But doing that, like she stabs him with the thing or whatever, and like he's like, no, come back, we're gonna be entwined together, our story or whatever. Which I suppose it is.
It still is in a weird way.
But he dies burning alone. She succumbs like after she rescues the baby and escapes. So it was like, do we have to kill him because, just for the sake of the drama, he's the monster and she's the hero? But then that's negated like a minute later when she reappears to the dead Helen, reappears to her husband Trevor.
What if it's
and kills him in the bathroom?
What if it's like she's still tied to the Candyman legend, but the people of Cabrini Green know the difference? Like, know how it ends up, how she like saved the baby and everything, but everybody else doesn't. Like, everybody else still associates her with, like, killing people like Candyman and everything. I think that's the thing. I think she's still associated. Only, like, Cabrini Green people know the truth. The legend still goes with Candyman.
To everybody else.
To everyone else, she is still a killer.
But would you then become fucking Pinhead? Just because, like, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I think based on everybody else's
are you is that no longer your soul? Like, is Candyman not really Candyman? Is he only a representation of the story? Like, is that not really the soul of the boy that died, covered in blah, blah? Like, is this not really Helen? Is this really what the story says Helen is? Because if you're not a killer, why would you like, now I'm a mirror ghost? Would you just turn into it because they said it?
Like, it's a physical representation of the history of that story and everything? Like, that's a good question.
It always felt to me, I mean, I know that we're talking about like what it could actually mean, but when I first saw the movie, I mean, we were coming out of the 80s, and so this felt like, every 80s movie, Freddy, Jason, anybody had the scene at the end that was the zinger that,
since Carrie.
Yeah, right.
This is 70 fucking 4. You end your movie with
Yeah. And
One last
but the
scare.
idea that like in the narrative, I guess her husband Trevor has been carrying on with this like, you know,
Stacy.
18-year-old girl Stacy.
Trevor.
18, whatever.
I fucking hate that name because of this movie. Trevor.
Well, he's played by the dickhead that was
John Connor's father.
John Connor's stepdad from Terminator 2.
Or, yeah,
Trevor.
sorry, stepdad. But the idea that like, so he's doing something that's morally wrong, having an affair with his, you know, on his, cheating on his wife. And so this is the comeuppance for his behavior
Yes,
throughout the movie
I guess so.
is for Helen to get revenge on her husband. So she's only really killing him
Right.
because he cheated on her.
Right.
I know that really deflates the whole thing.
It does.
No,
I don't
no, no,
feel
I'm
like
talking
she'd
about-
go after other people.
I'm always talking about selfish fucking motives for characters because writers are selfish people and like, or whatever. Most people are selfish people. So
Sure.
they only write things that are like related only to, you know.
Well, I can see that, like, you know, as a writer, you know, you're sitting there and you're like, oh, it like puts the whole thing in balance if Trevor actually does get his just desserts in the end, like a Tales from the Crypt episode or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, right.
But
Kind of feels
it
like
feels unnecessary for this movie. Like you,
Well, there was
could have
nothing
ended it.
unnecessary about that shirt that his
Stacey
little,
was wearing
oh,
at the end.
Jesus Christ. It was just like, dude, I mean,
At the end of the hall, you could see her nipples.
how is she
through that.
wearing a shirt, but I could see her breast perfectly? It makes no sense at all. Perfectly. I was like, I love that shirt.
Like, it's
That
like
material-
science is breaking down
True.
right now. I can see everything.
Science is. Yeah.
Poor Trevor. I mean, I kind of, you know, it's like you identify.
I don't feel bad if he got that a few
Yeah.
times. I'm like, you know what?
Well,
Lived
we
a good
assume
life.
that
He
he
lived a
did
good life.
We assume that he's been cheating, you know, prior to,
Oh, yeah.
you know, the actual
The
like,
whole time.
realization that like he's
Well, look,
moved in with
his
her.
wife is stealing his fucking, like, his class is about folklore. And she's like, I know what my thesis is about, folklore. Oh, imagine that, bitch. You know, I'm just joking. And then at that dinner, she's like, I'm going to bury you to his colleague. And he's like, bury me? Do you even know the story of Candyman?
Yeah.
She don't even know the story of
Read
Candyman.
the paper I wrote 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's like she is kind of a dick in a weird way. It's like
I
she's
know,
trying
right?
to like,
So she wants to prove something, but you're just like, you need to like pick where you want to like start insulting people because he's got a little
as
something.
long
up
as
on you.
they're a man.
Well, that's what I've always found interesting about this character is that she's not entirely likable. I mean, like in the way
Right.
that like we would write, you know, characters, it seems like now it's like she's got these rough edges. I think it's her hubris,
Probably,
kind of
yeah.
in a lot of ways. Like you know,
She's got the
Bernadette,
balls to go into Cabrini Green.
Right.
You could say it's the balls, or she's just stupid. There's characters telling her to her face, like you are just plain crazy from coming in here by yourself. This is a little kid talking to her. It's
Yeah.
like you're crazy. This is a dangerous place.
That's what
her
they
friend
said
is
to
like.
Michelle
This is
Pfeiffer.
a dangerous place, and she's like, I don't care. I'm going in there. I'm single minded. There's this thing that I want, and I'm going to get it, and I don't care what I have to do to get it. You know, it's like that kind of makes her.
I'm telling you,
It's like she deserves almost in
That's-
some cosmic way.
Sure.
that's people telling a white upper class character, it's too dangerous for you to deal with these lower class urban people. And she's like, I don't care. I care about people, so I'm gonna find out for sure.
Well, it makes her seem extremely naive in some ways. Then I suppose it's like she's got courage without like smarts.
Yeah.
She's got the drive and the ambition, but it's like you're doing this at the cost of your own safety. It's like anybody could have told you this is a bad situation to
Yeah.
be looking into, and you end up bringing this. I mean, we're saying both the
Well-
physical thing of going to Cabrini Green and getting assaulted, and the dabbling in the forces.
I think that makes a
where
good
it's like you
character.
should
Though.
leave
That's
that
like what
alone.
I imagine a Lois Lane character would be.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
someone that's
Very true.
going up against rough characters to get the truth.
But the other
Get the
thing
truth
that-
out there, because that's why she's gonna bury this professor dude, right? Is like he may know the story, but he didn't like bother to dig deep enough. Like everyone's
Right.
too scared to go around the scary like gangster people to investigate what happened in Cabrini Green. Where is this Candyman myth coming from?
I mean, I guess the biggest thing that she gets out of that, her big scoop, is that she sees the Candyman's lair, at least the antechamber on the first visit, Ruthie Jean's apartment has been turned into this kind of shrine to Candyman,
Right.
with the big mural on the wall and
At least
the
behind
graffiti.
We were talking how like Child's Play is the other modern day Chicago horror movie, and it also has the character's origins graffitied in his apartment. It's like that's just like the urban horror thing to do is spray paint the story thus so far.
That's how you know it's an inner city story.
Yeah, it's an graffiti.
Yeah.
And that we don't know Candyman's actually doing it. We thought it was like but they said Candyman's a painter.
Well, once we actually, she
So it's
finds
actually
the
Candyman.
actual layer where she goes
There's
upstairs.
a layer like above.
Yeah, that I think is like he painted that.
He's
like
been
years
hanging
ago.
out,
That's
sleeping
like,
on a piano, a grand piano upstairs.
I do love that scene of her going through the wall and there's that big painting of Candyman's mouth. When I was a kid,
That's cool.
that fucking really like
It really was like
it was really creepy when I was a kid. Like
Yeah.
now the whole movie's a lot brighter than than
Sure.
you recall it, but
But yeah, that was just like ooh, like striking imagery in this movie has stayed with me, especially that kid when they're talking about the kid who got it cut off in the bathroom and everything. Like that always stuck with me. It's like that's the showing a kid like in that situation in a movie. I'm like, whoa.
once again, she imagined that as happening in the 70s,
Yeah.
even though
well, maybe
when she's that's why I'm
the
thinking.
guy's got like a zoot suit on. It's
Well,
not a
but
zoot
that's why
suit,
I'm thinking
sorry.
about.
I'm
That's why I'm thinking these are her. Those are her idea. Like when she hears these stories,
It's her interpretation.
everything from an urban myth comes from it's the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. So she's imagining these past things. That's why she saw Ted Raimi as a 50s greaser guy. She saw this story as a 70s guy. But then when she gets arrested, the guy says, "Yeah, that's the Candyman that killed the girl and the boy." So we know, well, no, that's a modern day thing. That handicapped kid dying is a modern day story. It didn't take place in the 70s, but this fucking movie doesn't it just doesn't nail that home that
Is it?
these are when you get told an urban legend, you have a mental picture of it started in this era and she's placing all this, even though these are modern day things happening or.
Well, do you think that was on purpose? Because I think it
Unless they forgot in the script, shit, you wrote in that Candyman killed the boy, and then we filmed the fucking backflash from the 70s.
right.
Shut up.
I feel and this all definitely be after the fact, but it kind of gives. It could give it gives something to that whole mythos of this, that it did happen recently, but that they kind of shoot the flashbacks in sort of a more
Nostalgic?
Yeah, more nostalgic.
I mean, that's why I think it's got to be.
sepia tone.
It gives the
yeah.
Well, that's why it's gotta be Helen's-
broader legend to it.
It's got to be Helen's imagination. Helen's imagining this story the story Helen is being told. She's imagining, well, this would take place in the 70s because
maybe.
whatever.
Yeah.
Urban legends never happen in your time and day,
Well, that's
right?
what-
They're
but
always
that's what
something
I
that
think
happens in the past.
That's what I'm saying, but I think they're doing that on purpose to kind of get that point across.
Well,
maybe?
for sure, but I don't think this movie tells you that. This movie would have you believe that
Yeah, it took place a long
it took
time
place in the
ago.
70s, not
Right.
that this
And
is
then the
her
dialogue
idea
contradicts
of
it.
Right.
where it took place.
Yeah.
I mean, I got it just because
Right.
fucking whatever. You gotta make something of this movie, and you're like, well, they just mentioned the boy. That didn't happen in the 70s, so this must be why. Unless they fucking forgot.
Yeah.
That's our only mistake. It's having that one black detective say, "Yep, she killed the girl and the boy." Oh,
Yeah. See, I think some of those scenes are as far as the directing goes, fairly well done because it does create a sense of distortion or disorientation. Where she wakes up all of a sudden and these murders have happened and you're like, what in the fuck? And there's this lost time. And it really does make her out to be a crazy person.
Yeah.
And that was I think what was unique about this movie at that period of time. As we moved into the 90s, we went out of the 80s slasher thing into the psychological horror movie. And I don't know what happened or what was going on at the time, but you had, was it the arrest of
drugs.
well, as far as the hand that rocks the cradle.
Yeah.
It was
there's all these
thrillers.
Yeah,
Thrillers
final analysis
became
where,
the,
where it was thrillers where psychiatrists were the
Cape
protagonists.
Fear. When was Cape Fear remake?
91. What was it? Bruce Willis movie, The Color of Night. He was a psychiatrist.
Yeah, Color of Night.
It's like Final Analysis. Richard
Dead
Gere
Calm.
is
I love
a psychiatrist. It's like so psychiatrists are the main characters wandering through this like psychological landscape where there's a primal fear. They're all kind of. It's a psychological.
Silence
decade.
of the Lambs. We talked about Silence of the Lambs.
Yep, which directly predated this.
Directly, 1 year earlier, and like I said, there's a connection.
What's that?
Cassie Lemons plays
Oh,
Clarice
shit.
Starling's
Yeah,
friend and also fellow cadet at the thing, and she's Bernadette in this movie.
Yeah.
I was watching this movie, I'm like, is that fucking her?
You
from
said that
Silence of the
earlier, and I'm
Lambs?
like, I can't even think of what it is. And
Yeah.
it was boom.
That's her. And on movie posters that have insects on faces, they're very similar.
Oh, shit.
Like, do you see? Like,
Yeah.
kind of similar.
They're pitching this on the back of the box as the scariest movie since The Silence of the Lambs. I mean,
Last year.
Yeah. but it seemed
1
like
year before.
at least even at the time, I'll say that from a wrap up. All right, so
Still pretty Pinhead, though. As much as they tried to go psychological, they went to Pinhead.
because they created a movie monster.
They created a movie monster.
But it always seems like the great movie monsters, you don't know they're a movie monster until until a few years afterwards.
Yeah.
It's like you see it and you're like, well, he's not like Freddy and he's not like Jason and he's not like Chucky, but those guys weren't like the guy before them.
But he's
when you
exactly
saw
like
them.
Pinhead. I loved Candyman just because he's exactly like. That's what I do like about this movie. When Candyman's talking, yeah,
He's
it's
sounds
fucking
like
Pinhead. It's scary.
Yeah.
Come on, be
I
my
suppose,
victim and all
right,
that
you
shit.
have
Everything
some
about
type of object, in this case a mirror, in the other case a puzzle box that summons a being from
That
another
just talks.
dimension.
Does Pinhead monologue a lot?
that's what Pinhead. Oh, you haven't seen fucking Hellraiser?
No,
already?
I've seen like the first two. But it's been a long time.
Oh, that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Maybe
sounds
parts
like
of
that.
like bloodlines and the
We
fucking
have
bloodlines.
such
Like, no,
sights
it's
to
been
show
a
you.
long time.
Still hungry, ready for something that screams.
There's lots of talk of
Long
flesh.
time.
Oh, dude, pain.
Oh yeah.
You know nothing of the word
Isn't there a dude
pain.
who's got like CDs coming out of his mouth?
Pain
Nipple
has a
piercings and
face.
shit, yeah.
Allow me
In
to show
Hellraiser
it to
3.
you.
Yes.
I love
that's-
Hellraiser,
yeah.
Hell on Earth. I had to get that out there.
All right.
I feel better now.
Good. You feel?
I actually dated the cousin of the CD
Get the
Cenobite.
fuck
Oh, really?
outta here.
Yeah,
Wow.
not that means anything to
No,
anybody.
not to anybody.
But it makes me want to. It makes me want to buy the. I saw the CD Cenobite toy the other day. I was like, I want to buy that, man. Just
That's the
'cause
one
it's
that's
like,
most memorable to me for some
He was
reason.
awesome.
He was. I like
Fuck it,
him.
I like Cenobites. I don't care what you know. Anyway.
So this movie was followed by 2 sequels.
Woo.
There's Candyman Farewell to the Flesh
Which
and
is a
Candyman Day of the Dead.
Good
Yep.
title.
Farewell to the Flesh went to theaters. I
Mm.
saw it in the
Did you see it in the
theater.
theaters?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I saw this and the second one.
I mean, I can understand after seeing this, be like, all right, let's see what the second one's got to offer.
I don't even know if I would
I
see the second one.
imagine you did not.
I can't recall if I
You
ever
You are
even finished
correct.
it.
I did not really like the
Yeah.
second one. Like even
second
like,
or third,
but
like-
the second one, the thing that I remember the most from it, at least that I did. So I saw it in the
Was
theater.
the Playboy Playmate they cast in the main role?
Was she? I don't remember her.
I think in one of them it was.
I don't think it was that. Oh, Donna D'Errico was in. The
Yeah,
third one.
Don D'Errico. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
the Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
But the second one, I remember it having a mood, and it was like it had a very Southern Gothic New Orleans flavor to it,
yes,
which was really cool. I saw it recently because it was on the Bounce Network, which of course it's going to be because it's got Tony Todd in it,
Tony Todd.
and it was
It's
like,
a direct ticket to
ooh,
bounce.
this is worse than I thought it was. They kill off Artie or whatever, the professor in like the very first scene. It seems to me he's
really?
in New Orleans giving some speech, or class about
Right,
Candyman,
yeah.
and then Candyman shows up and kills him. And then credits: Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh.
Yeah.
Then it becomes like a serial killer movie.
Yeah, well, it's somehow like in this woman's family is the house where it's a relation or something.
Yeah, dude. Dracula. All over this movie.
That movie, ironically, directed by Bill Condon, he went on to do Gods and Monsters. And
It's a David
there's
Duchovny
something
movie,
else
wasn't
he
it?
did before he did Twilight, Breaking Dawn, Part 1 and Part 2.
Oh my god. So his career's over. That's what
he's
you're
got a
saying.
better career than Bernard Rose, or Bernard
Bernard
Rose.
Bernard.
Maybe he just went back to England and did BBC shows.
Probably. Isn't that where they all go? Like
Back to
BBC
England?
Heaven?
Going back to England.
The guy who directed
What?
the third
We're
one.
making
BBC
Shakespeare.
fucking-
Fuck this
Name.
Candyman 3 shit.
Yeah. Well, that was back in the days when you could actually direct movies that went to theaters. Now they go direct.
No, everything's like VOD.
Like Candyman 3.
Because
Anybody
all
see
these horror
Candyman 3?
movies. No.
I've seen them all, yes.
What the?
I saw Candyman
This
3.
is
I
insane.
am not proud of it, but I've seen
Yeah,
it.
it was
proud of
not
that.
good. Well,
It's
it
not good.
loses.
Dude, Candyman to me is one of like, this is the signifiers of like the end of horror. Like, it's over. All that fun you had, all that like, goodbye. We turned all the lights on and sent the monsters home.
It's
We
not a fun movie.
A lot of
It's
this
not a
does
fun
happen
movie.
during the daytime.
And what interests me about it is not part of the movie, really. I mean, I like when Candyman shows up and talks. Like I said, that's Pinhead, dude. It's all, everything he does is the shit. Open his jacket, let me see bees. It's like fucking scary.
Bees. All the bees in
All
everybody's
her-
mouths and on the faces.
Dude.
Oh,
They're trying to figure out how they did that.
They put like everything's real.
Well,
they just had a
something-
mouth guard so it wouldn't go down his throat.
But what's to stop him from stinging his lips?
He got
Like-
stung. No, it says like he got
so
stung.
those were like,
No,
like full
they're
stinger bees.
They were bred specifically for this movie, but they are
They're
like
nice bees. They're Tony
they're
Todd
like
bees.
12 hours old.
Oh,
so
they're
that they
babies.
look like full grown bees, but their stingers won't have like a very
So they're
big
probably really
impact
fluffy.
or at all. They're very fluffy, But yeah, they're very young bees, so they can look old enough but not do damage. He's been stung plenty of times doing the 3 movies, but yeah, very young bees. Virginia Madsen is allergic to bees, so they're
What?
like, but they say they had like an ambulance on set ready to go, but everybody's covered in bees in this movie.
Yeah,
He's got
it's
bees
very
coming out of his
scary.
mouth.
Yeah,
It's
very-
crazy.
they're coming out of his mouth.
Ah,
It's very scary.
Yeah,
no.
and it's
Even her, she's like,
real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
No.
Fuck. Is that one of those things you just tell your people like, no, I can do it. I thought you were allergic. No. What?
Yeah,
No, I
right.
can do it. Is there a
Not
paycheck?
a chance.
Yeah.
Like if like maybe if I'm not allergic, you're like, all right, if they're just gonna like be on me, maybe. But if I'm allergic, I'm like, fuck, no,
Yeah.
I'm not taking that chance.
Right.
No.
Kind of wild.
But yeah, real.
But I'm
Just
sure,
all in
like,
his mouth.
I'm
Yeah.
sure like the paramedics have whatever they need to inject them with, like right there.
Right, just-
so it'd be just
Oh,
like
I'm
a
sure they're ready.
5-minute, like, there you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Brave
Still.
choice by
Yeah.
by Virginia Madsen.
No,
Are
thank
we,
you.
so is that Candyman?
I think that's Candyman. Sean, Candyman.
I think it's
Candyman?
Candyman. I think it's Candyman.
Colin?
All right.
Candyman?
There it is.
I think that's Candyman. All right, so now we're gonna summon Igor. Igor, where art thou, sir?
Masters, the mail. I've got the mail. So many letters. Our followers are rising.
Well, thank you, Igor.
Is that a new shirt, Igor? I like it. Good color on you.
No, I think we just washed it. I don't think that's
Really? Like you got the grime off it? Like, oh, Jesus.
I think we did the best.
It's like a
we could.
10-year-old shirt. It's like, oh, all right. Well, it looks good on you, Igor. Thank you.
Well, Igor has brought the mailbag covered in his signature slime. Okay, so again, you can write to us on Facebook.com/Saturday Night Freak Show or Twitter @SatFreakShow. So we've got comments about our last 3 movies. So about Candyman, Babette Georgie writes in and says, where was the
I love that
movie
name.
filmed? Those ghetto sets, were they really abandoned projects or just sets?
It was Cabrini Green.
Shot Cabrini Green.
All right. But
Permission
They
from
took
the
a sniper.
gangstos.
They took a sniper shot to the production van on the last day, but
Oh, that's
Cabrini
what
Green.
happened. I thought I heard it the other way around, that they hired snipers. To
Oh no!
watch the-
Yeah, apparently, like on one of the last days, there was like a sniper shot into the production van. Nobody was hurt, but yeah, there was. It
A
was
sniper shot to
tentative.
me in like gangland just means somebody pointed the gun and pulled the trigger.
Right.
I don't, a
Who had
sniper
really-
shot. They were
who
up
was-
high.
Like
Yeah.
from 10 feet away, he's got really good aim. That's a sniper shot.
Well, we should be clear. That's the exteriors. The interiors were actually constructed on a soundstage. You can tell because of the lighting is
Yeah.
way up in the
Way high, and you.
So interiors, but that production designer in this movie knew his grime.
Oh boy, did he! Oh, bothers me
does
to
not
this
think
day.
highly of urban.
Bothers me
area.
to this day.
G Money writes in and
G-Money.
says, 1 is good, 2 is great as well, but I use great loosely. 1 has the best story and acting, but 2 and some of 3 have undoubtedly better and gorier effects.
Huh.
Is Candyman?
Yeah, Candyman.
Oh, geez.
All 3
All right.
make for a great marathon. Tony Todd is and always will be the
He's
Candyman
very
in
good.
any film he's in.
He is the
It's
Candyman.
very good.
Well, he's also Death in
He is Death.
Final Destination.
He is. That's
Is
a good.
he?
That was a
3
good
of those
pull.
movies, he's Death. Well, he's a
Weird.
coroner. but he speaks for death.
He's
basically,
death.
right?
Crazy.
But he's good in that role.
He's good at
Like,
anything.
He's good in that.
Tony
He's
Todd's a good actor.
Tony Todd's good.
He's a scary guy.
Yeah.
Intimidating.
You see him in Hatchet?
Nope.
No,
I would have to watch Hatchet again.
I would have to watch Hatchet.
It's horrible.
I mean, that's unfortunately where the guy is right now. Now he's like basically because he's one of
Yeah,
the
he's making
his money,
franchise
right?
He's
horror
making his money.
guys. He shows up in whenever they do the like, let's get Kane Hodder and Robert Englund and Tony Todd.
You gotta
together.
get Tony Todd.
Yeah.
But he had his
But
run.
he's
He was
part
in.
of that
He was in
group.
The Crow.
He's
He was
part
one of
of
the
that
main
group.
bad guys in The Crow. So I mean, he's been in major movies.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
He's
I don't know him.
Fucking Night of the Living Dead.
Right.
Have we
yeah,
forgotten
remake.
about that?
Yeah.
The '90s version.
Yeah.
My
Tom Savini.
possibly.
Yeah, he
I
was-
mean, I love. Candyman's good, but possibly my favorite Tony Todd role. Come on.
Not only that.
Yeah, I love
For
him. In that
sure.
role.
More
I
to
love
do
him
with
in that role.
I suppose, right? He gets to actually.
I
act
rarely
and
watched the
down.
'90s Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, I like that.
The
movie.
'60s version is good.
I like that one too, but I like the 90s version.
All right. About Lemora, A Child's Tale.
Oh,
the
don't say it.
Supernatural.
Less said the
Dom
better.
Cree writes in and says, "A
Dom.
massacre at Central High mention. That's my first VHS horror rental ever. Thank that movie for shaping my terrible and uninformed opinions on the films you review." I think that's
Thank you,
because
Dom.
Rainbow Smith was in Massacre at Central
was she?
High, and we
Oh.
did a mention. We
Well,
haven't
there it
actually
is.
seen it.
We haven't seen it.
Yeah,
No.
you're ahead of us on this game, Dom. So yeah.
All right, Dom.
And about Scream 2, G Money again writes in. He
G-Money?
says,
Good
okay,
stuff.
so he says he saw The Girl in the Photograph this weekend. This is a new movie, but
yeah.
it was the last movie produced by Wes Craven before he died.
Right. I've heard about this.
He says it's very Craven-esque with the brutality and how they made a human appear more monster-like without makeup. I haven't seen it, though.
Ooh.
He says, is there any thought on new or recent films in theaters or just new or streaming to watch? What's your favorite werewolf films?
I love Bad Moon.
Not Wolf Cop.
Not Wolf Cop. I mean, I think Bad Moon's like. I also kind of like Werewolf Hunter. It was the one
Roma
with Julian
Santa? Yeah,
Julian
yeah, I like
Sands,
that,
where it's
yeah.
kind of based on the first American trial of werewolfism. Was it American trial or
Yeah.
French?
Yeah, it's somewhere over. It's European. somewhere.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Where.
Anyway, that's a pretty good werewolf movie,
Yeah.
but they're hard to come by.
Sean?
Werewolf movies are not my thing. I always
I don't think they're movies things.
just like I'm never fucking. I don't know. It's never like. It's never ever been scary because it's a werewolf movie, and the effects nothing's ever looked real to me. I like American Werewolf in Paris.
What?
Wait,
London,
you-
in
yeah, I was
London.
gonna say, I
Oh,
think you
oh,
messed
other
this
one,
up.
other
My
one,
heart
other one.
fucking skipped a
No,
goddamn
no.
beat right
Other
there.
one, sorry, London. My bad.
Why?
Sorry.
Why?
Mostly for the effects of what's his name, the guy who dies early in the beginning.
Griffin Dunn.
Yeah,
Jack.
Yeah, for who shows up throughout
Yeah.
the movie. Like that's like his part is like fucking awesome. How he slowly
Just
degrades
that
throughout the movie.
script.
Just like, that's
Yeah, it's
good.
The whole
sharp.
script,
Um,
It's
dude.
a very sharp, funny movie.
Oh my god,
It really is.
it's the best.
I like. I don't know. I don't have much experience with. Just that I would go with that one because
I like them.
they don't do well for me.
I like werewolf movies, Sean. I like them.
I know you do.
I've
I
watched
like them a lot. I do
the
like the
Wolfman,
original Wolfman.
I like
do
the
that
remake
one.
of the Wolfman. I like
Blah.
American Werewolf, The Howling. I kind of like the Wolfman and the Monster Squad.
I don't like that.
Wolfman's got nards.
Yeah,
and
the
stuff.
Wolfman's got nards.
Wolfman's
He's
got
a pretty
nards.
cool looking werewolf. I like Ginger Snaps. I'm trying to think of
Oh,
other
Ginger
good,
Snaps.
like
I like the first
Ginger
one, not the
Snaps
like
is pretty
5
good.
after it, but I like Ginger Snaps.
good werewolf creature design. and
Creature
another
design?
movie.
Bad Moon. I swear to God, Bad Moon has
Can we
like one of the
tell- what
best
about
werewolves.
Wolf?
Yeah,
Come
it's a bad
on.
movie.
You know, well,
I'm sure it is.
Oh, you mean he's
got-
got yellow eyes and just fucking bushy sideburns?
Yeah,
like
I kind of like that Nicholson did it. Like I
Yeah.
kind of like that. I'm okay with that
I
movie.
kind of like that movie.
I'm
I
okay
just
with that
don't
movie.
like the ending. But
You
Bad
sure?
Moon.
Oh, you
I
mean where the
haven't
werewolf
seen
fights
in
the
a
other
while.
werewolf?
And where she's a werewolf at the end.
Yeah,
Well, everybody's a werewolf
Uh,
because that's how you end a Hollywood movie. Even the Wolfman remake, like 2 werewolves. Never saw that coming.
mhm. That's not always a bad thing.
It's
You
a
just gotta
horrible
go with
thing.
it. You just
When
gotta
you,
go with it.
when you say, "Well, who's the monster gonna fight?" You're like, you got to walk out of the office. like nobody. The monster should kill people. Then like
They
some
get killed.
some
Over.
sort of person or authority figure kills the monster.
Well, yeah.
Monsters don't need to fight other monsters.
But when they do, it can be awesome. All right, so final thoughts on Candyman.
You.
Colin,
Oh,
what are your
okay,
final
that's me.
thoughts? Candyman.
My final thoughts. I
Tell
think
us,
this is
please,
a
now.
very smart adult horror movie. It stars adults. It's it's like
We never talked about the score.
oh shit.
Score that's one of my
I'll talk about it.
movies.
Philip Glass.
Philip Glass.
Who you may know from Quiet Scani. No?
Did you say an English word? Like what is?
It's a Swahili word.
Swahili.
He also did if you saw Dracula, the 1931 Bela Lugosi Dracula with the score performed by the Kronos Quartet, that was written by Philip Glass. But he's a
How the fuck old is he?
No, he didn't. That was in the 2000s when they
Okay.
re-released it.
Oh, when they re-released it with the new score. I'm like, how old is this guy?
If you saw Watchmen, the scene on Mars is scored to a piece that he did for Quiet Scani, the movie with his Life in Motion. So yeah, but he maintains that he was duped into doing
Right, he does.
this soundtrack.
He kind of disowned it for
That's
a long
good,
time
though.
until
Yeah, it is good.
15 years ago.
Yeah,
Isn't it,
'cause-
I swear to God that score when it goes.
that's Hook
Is
No,
that?
that's
That's-
fucking Home Alone.
or Home Alone
Yeah,
or
that's-
something.
It sounds familiar. That it just reminds me of it really badly. I think it's great.
But he
I
has
think
since
it's
come
great.
around, or at least maybe the money's come around.
The
or
money's
something.
come
But
around.
he's
Something.
allowed it to be released and everything.
Yeah, he said he was like duped, like Bernard Rose convinced him that this type of movie, it wasn't a slasher movie, it was an art film, or it was
And independent.
prestige.
Yeah,
I
he
think-
was disappointed with the final product.
Yeah. But it's like, I think it was, Bernard Rose to me doesn't seem like he's a horror guy. Made a horror movie, which is like, that's what makes it interesting in some ways. Like he's removed from the genre so he could actually like look at it differently and do something where, like I said before, to me, this did usher in the era of the psychological horror movie, a psychological slasher, whatever. This is what, the beginning of what defined the 90s.
Sliver.
For me anyway. Yeah. As far as like what the horror movies were. Well, the first one was Jacob's Ladder. I'm like, this is now we're in the 90s.
It's the 90s.
This is very different. We've left Freddy, Jason, and all the Dr. Giggles behind. And
No, Dr. Giggles was in the 90s.
oh, that's right, he was.
Dr.
A
Giggle,
latecomer.
Well, the 90s was psychological, but the movie monsters, they all became Freddy. They all became the tug and cheek, like Leprechaun.
Yeah.
Everything was like, does he make jokes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything went
Cool.
to that level.
Yep. And then in the 90s, we had to understand why they did what they did. And in the case of Scream, was kind of spitting in the face of that with the motive is because it's the millennium.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the performances. It feels like they were actually trying to make a legit, movie here. It wasn't like exploitation. They're actually going after something, I think. And, I think it's successful. The shock scares when I saw it in the theater, I remember they worked on me because of the way he cuts. It's the cutting that makes them work where no one's there. And then all of a sudden you cut and to a new angle and something's happening with accompanied by the loud noise.
Well, even when he goes out the window, that cut is almost right on. His body and movement almost. It's just like Jesus.
It's almost subliminal. Like you saw it, but it happened so fast.
Right.
And yeah,
Which works.
It's
for,
exciting.
The story they're getting across being subliminal. That's
yeah. I heartily recommend the Candyman. I think it stands up as one of the best horror movies of the 1990s, a prime example of the genre. Although it's like, if you weren't into horror and you watched it, would the disorienting effect of it lose you and you'd just be like, fuck this, I don't understand what's going on here. Maybe. I don't know.
maybe at the end.
It's not. It still seems like it's not. It doesn't shatter the narrative in a way that you can't understand what's happening. I think it's still
No.
as long as you ride that line of she's actually doing this with this imagined or not figure directing her moves, then everything. Even though you're missing time in those gaps, you can still understand what happened. She went up there and fucking stabbed somebody. That's yes, Candyman. Yes.
So I would say that it does hinder the movie, what you were just saying about how the psychological portion of it. Because I like this movie leading up to I mean, I swear to God, this movie, almost right where that edits to where she wakes up in the bathroom of that lady in Cabrini Green, like that is where I stop liking this movie, like 100%, because it just stops making. It's not. I mean, I know it's not trying to make sense. It's trying to be like discombobulating and all this shit, but like I just don't like. I don't know. I don't see why. I don't know. When you watch the movie through, you're like, okay, this is why Candyman wanted her to be part of the legend. But until you know that at the end, it's just like, okay, this doesn't fucking make any sense. Why don't he just kill her? Why don't he just... It just doesn't make sense. He's too vague about what he's doing. I also think, I mean, fuck, any vampire movie that uses you're a descendant of the woman I loved, I fucking just hate that story. I hate it to my core. I'm so bored with I'm surprised Candyman didn't have he did have a fucking painting of her.
There was.
Yeah, there was a painting of her just like every fucking...
End credits. There's a big painting
I think
of her.
Fright Night's the only movie I will still watch where, like, there's a painting of my lost beloved
She
or
looks
whatever.
just like this lesbian I know right
this
here.
lesbian. Imagine that shit. So, I don't know. It does lose me because, like, Candyman is something to be feared in the beginning of the movie. Then later in the movie, we don't even know if he cuts the dog's head off. He just takes a baby. And it's just like, God, you'd imagine that if this guy has this much power, I mean, maybe he only has that power over her because it's his like fucking great granddaughter or whatever the fuck. Maybe that's the only reason he has any sort of suggestion over her. Because
you're still getting the idea that she's a great.
Because it's in the painting. When she looks at the paint, it was always used. Helen, she looks at the painting of them cutting his hand off. There's the white woman in the picture, dude. Come on.
So it's like it's the end of the Shining thing, where like
it's her.
Always you, Jack. You know, you were always the caretaker, here.
Right?
But it's her, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the film does
for sure.
Go
this is because I've always known that. When I was watching this tonight, like I'm pretty sure this story's about how she's a relative of Candyman.
That's why you got to come over to my view here.
You don't even watch the movie.
But they continue that theme in the other movies as well. Like I know we have to watch this as its own thing, but they do
because that's the fucking story. Colin blocks out things he doesn't like in movies, and that's why he's like, I like the Wolfman remake.
I didn't like the end of Candyman, just the very end, but it was always you, Helen. If you see it as like that's her confessing
if
to
you're
herself,
choosing to see it like
she's
that,
not
but
a descendant.
Just knowing movies
better.
I don't care.
Come on to the side.
It's not the real
Love
movie.
The Candyman.
You could choose to think of it that way, but that's not the real movie. The movie is telling you that that's the descendant of the white. That's why he wants her to be. Well, then why else does he want a random white woman to be part of his fucking story? Why? It doesn't make fucking sense, Colin. You don't even have to answer.
She made
because she went looking for it.
Yeah, she made the kid.
It still does,
the congregation.
But that still doesn't mean like join me in immortality. That's rewarding her for fucking putting away his what? No, she is.
He's a poetic soul. He loves
it's his relative.
It's more like the one who opposed me. I will make part of the legend. Like
no,
the one,
not.
the biggest doubter.
Sure.
The biggest doubter I will bring in as part of it.
Yeah, you don't do that.
Part of it.
You don't do that.
I think you can.
If I'm a vampire and I hate you, I don't make you a vampire. I kill you and
Your
suck
biggest
you dry.
doubter, you turn into part of the thing. Like I think, like he's trying to strengthen his legend at that point.
Anyway, the point is, I fucking hate when somebody. I just hate when the monster is in love with the ancestor of his beloved. I just especially when it's his kid. I think that's a new one. Like it's always been the you're the like the reincarnated, but it's never been like she was pregnant. That's why they tell you she was pregnant and they kill Candyman. That's specifically why they tell you
she would be a mulatto.
They could have just said, okay, after just because you sleep with one black guy, every single one of us has one black person in our fucking genealogy. And we're not fucking mulattoes. We're still white. There's plenty of you put one black person.
You're a little dark. He's not.
Yeah,
he's not.
But so yeah, that's You know, I mean, if you don't see that as the movie, I'm sorry, you don't know how to read a movie. But just,
We will let the viewers decide.
yeah, we goddamn
Right
will.
in, viewers.
We
How
fucking
did you
will.
see
let us know.
Candyman?
Well,
Let us
dude, he
know.
just said the sequels continue that thread, so obviously it has to
It's
be.
like the sequel's invented, though.
Okay,
That is the main
that's the
story
biggest
of
stretch.
Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh.
It's
Well,
almost like-
that's what I'm
but-
saying. It was always meant to be that way.
Or the sequels picked up on that theme and just took that and ran with that.
Like,
theme.
I see what you're saying, but that's what I'm saying. This movie fails to be that psychological thing that you're talking about. It tries to throw the viewer off in a weird way, but it fails. It just
Right.
totally lets you know that Pinhead's here. I'll always call him Pinhead. He's Black Pinhead. I think he's cool as fuck. Cool as fuck. I would totally own a Candyman toy. Very scary guy.
Are you a fan of Bones?
But that's my problem is that-
Snoop Dogg.
No, I'm not.
Villain
At
No?
all.
right.
But that's my problem with this movie is that it's about a monster dealing with his own family drama. And I always, that's my problem when I feel like a story is too like self-contained. Like if it's this like, oh, it's this urban myth, and like I just didn't get enough of Candyman doing what he does, I suppose, right? Everything just happens because she makes people forget it, or how strong was it anyway? That's why I see that also doesn't make fucking sense. How it's like mainly a Cabrini Green thing, but then this white chick in the college has the 1950s story. So it's like, well,
That was from Indiana, she said it happened.
yeah, right. So just because she like finds one Candyman guy in the in Chicago in the 90s, why would that discount stories that are in Indiana, blah 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 blah, over a matter of a week? Like as soon as they got caught, he comes like, you destroyed my legend. That's why I took, Cabrini Green is something that is Candyman is something that's a legend of Cabrini Green, but
It's spread.
obviously
It's
it's
like a
spread. But then
viral
why
thing.
would it? That shouldn't dilute his power just because one building no longer believes in me. You know, the rest of the world should still have their Candyman mythos. There's a lot of holes in this movie. I don't like this movie. I like the idea of this movie. I like the character of Candyman. I like the villain. Like, I'm always talking about how they've always fucking gone out of their way to try to create these Mickey Mouse villain characters in movies like Hatchet and Wishmaster.
I forgot about Wishmaster.
Yeah,
Holy
so did
shit.
everyone else.
There are like 5 of those movies.
I saw that in
Yeah.
the theater.
Oh my
So did
God.
I. And that's why I was like, it's over. It's over. Horror is over.
That's when you're like, when it says
It's
Wes
done.
Craven presents, you run the other
Well, but it
way.
was written by the guy that wrote every Hellraiser movie except for one. He
You
wrote
remember
Wishmaster.
Wes Craven presents They. You saw that in the theater.
No,
that
I
was
did
one
not.
of the worst
I saw that in
movies
the
I've
Oh,
theater.
ever
I
seen
learned a
in
long
my
time
life.
ago. You see Wes Craven, don't even. Just
That
like
Wes
dude.
Craven presents. Although he did do Dracula 2000.
So I do not recommend Candyman. I'm just saying that. I don't recommend it. I think it's cool. Like, it's one of those things where, like, I even just, when I saw this back in the day, I hated, as soon as we go to this psychological angle, I'm like, this movie lost me, man. Like, I see what they're trying to do. This movie doesn't do it, though. It falls short of it.
It says it right there. An effectively eerie psychological chiller.
Yeah.
Filled with clever, unusual touches.
Who's that? Rex Reed? I don't know. It would
Yeah.
be-
Someone,
it's Leonard
someone we
Maltin.
paid
I was
a
gonna
hand.
say, Rex Reed hates everything.
Rex Reed hates everything.
Yeah.
Leonard Maltin actually liked it. It
There you
would
go.
appear.
But hated Gremlins. Isn't that weird, Leonard Maltin? I know, right? He gets paid.
He's weird.
He's a weirdo.
That's weird. I don't know. Well, I do know actually. I see what you're saying about it. Candyman. Like I said, I saw this when I was like, there was like a collection. Like my dad had to have been like he was definitely a horror movie fan, but he always had like shit on random VHS tapes, just like
Shitty movies.
just hand labeled like here's this, and I'm just like, oh, Candyman, we're gonna watch this one day. So I saw this movie when I was very young, probably too young to be watching Candyman, but it's
Perfect
the thing
age.
there's an argument for it.
Bloody boobs.
Bloody boobs, that always stood out. But there's always like the imagery of this movie. It's the imagery and the score of this movie, and them combined, that has always stood out to me in Candyman. And it's always made me feel uneasy. Like I said earlier, this is not a fun movie in any regard for me, but it's the imagery that, like, I think draws me back to it. I do like this movie. I think it's very good. I think, ironically, in the mythology of the movie, I think it can get a little muddled, especially when you get towards the end of the movie. But everything that happens in this movie is always like, it's kind of disturbed me in a way. Like, it's always given me like just on like unhappy feelings. But I do like it. I do, mostly from the imagery and the score. That score does it for me in this movie.
I like the close up on the bees. Seriously,
like which one?
Like all of them.
Like
That's
when
all.
it
All
goes into the wall,
this whole
like the
movie should have
bees?
been just like bees, and then a voice just being like, "Be my victim." Blah blah blah. It's like I would have bought this movie 100%.
I like that. I like
scary.
I like the psychological aspect because you can go into it being like, is it Candyman? Is she just insane doing all this stuff? Just like the gore of this movie always kind of had an effect on me when her friend just lying dead in the living room, like just like kind of bleached pale because she's lost so much blood.
Yeah.
Like that has stuck with me
And this is like,
forever.
and this is
Seeing
before
this
like
movie.
forensics, right? There was like no scientist that could be like,
Not at all.
no hook pierced her. Like, there's no
Right,
murder
like what the
weapon.
murder weapon
They're just
could've
like,
been.
you're guilty. Why?
Right.
Because you're in the same building.
Right. Or the fact
She
that like
had a knife in her hand.
She did,
But she
like,
was murdered with a hook.
Trevor walking in after that whole thing and her just on the ground, like, just kind of squirming on the ground with a knife in her hand. Like, it's disturbing imagery in this movie. And that is.
Yeah, you verbally hear about a little kid who gets his penis cut
Right.
off and flushed down a toilet.
Right? And just that quick imagery of them, like, swooping through the bathroom
Yeah.
and just the blood everywhere. Just, like, the spatters of blood everywhere in this movie.
And the idea that
Oy.
a child is in jeopardy throughout the entire...
And that might be a big thing. Just, like, him laying on the ground, and it is a kid.
It's always kids, right? The
It
baby.
really is. Like, that had a big effect on me.
Of course, the fact that she sees flashes of this kid in Candyman's lair the entire way kind of gives credence to the idea that this is all in her head, because of course she knows he's there. She put him there.
Did she? I definitely recommend this movie.
Let me tell you just one thing before you wrap up. Do the Cabrini Green people deliver an imaginary hook to her funeral? Was that a real hook? I mean, that's a real
That is
fucking
his
hook. That's it's not in her head. Candyman's a real dude.
I also like.
He's
the hook.
awesome.
I like that they didn't make it like a little curved Captain Hook hook. Like it's just like a fucking.
that's scary as fuck.
Angle, like
That's scary as fuck. This is the scariest pimp I've ever seen in a movie.
like that shit. Like, and it's not nice. It's like jabbed into his fucking severed arm
With
like,
a fucking, it's got like 2 nails.
right. It's like
to
there's a
get
little
into
block
his
of wood and
bone.
get some nails in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like who? That's
Like,
what I don't get.
I
Like
love-
who put the hook on the ghost? It's like I hear in the story they cut his hand off, but who gave him the hook?
I think I say in the...
they say they jabbed a hook on.
Did
him.
they?
Yeah, before he died. They
Why
jabbed
would you
him.
do that? Like, let's
that's
give
it.
this guy a scary weapon before he dies.
That's also not explained. They're just like, why would you jab a hook on him? That's
Huh?
weird. And
Weird.
pour honey on him.
That's weird.
Weird. But the design of a lot of stuff in this movie, I really like. It is just very grimy. It's very like I don't know if like I wasn't aware that like Chicago was that close to me when I was young, but older now, like that's like that whole environment is just like it makes me uneasy. Not for like it's mostly the toilets. I'm gonna say that.
I was gonna say it's the people that when you try to walk into a building, like, what are you doing here? What you doing? What are you doing here? I'll be like, nothing. I'm going home.
It's mostly the
Not
toilets.
looking for Candyman.
I just don't want shit on me. That's the big thing.
Don't write shit. Don't write with
please
shit
don't.
on me.
Ugh. No. But I do recommend Candyman. I think like it got a visceral reaction from me when I was very young. It still like affects me as I'm older. I think it's definitely something you should see. I definitely recommend it.
All right, so that's Candyman on the Saturday Night Freak Show. And next week, it's my pick, right? Yeah, I think it is. And we're going to be diving into a genre that we haven't actually explored on this podcast before.
Tentacle porn.
Gay
fuck,
porn.
we did do that.
No, yeah, we did tentacle porn. There's
shit.
more on the way. No, I'm just joking.
We're going to do the Italian giallo with Dario Argento's classic Tenebrae. That's
Holy
next
shit.
week
I've
on
actually
the
seen
Saturday
this
Night.
one.
You actually have seen
I
it.
have seen this one.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll have lots to talk about then. The whole width and breadth of the giallo genre next week on the Saturday Night Freak Show. Until then, the basement is going dark.